So welcome, Lynda. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Now, I've been really looking forward to our interview, and it's been hard to pin you down because, of course, in my semi-private business coaching program, it's not just me doing that alone. I bring in other experts, and you're our mindset expert that comes and works with everybody every month, and this really takes us on that level deeper to really make sure that by the end of the program, people don't have all of these insecurities and hang-ups holding us back, that we're ready to go forward. So I love that. And we're going to talk a little bit about mindset and the impact of mindset on your ability to succeed in business. Okay. We'll come to that. But before we get to that, I would love to know, how did you become a high performance and mindset coach in the first place?
Necessity, really. I think my career path has been very evolutionary. I almost 30 years working now. I think the area of work that I worked in, first of all, education, then in drama therapy, then psychology, psychotherapy, then executive coaching. Each step has evolved from the previous one. And my clients and the stakeholders in my professional world have kind of led me on the next stage of development. I'm also a nerd, as you know. I love reading. I love learning. I'm intensely curious. So each year I do some postgraduate in some way, and I redo my coach training every couple of years. And that really shapes and evolves who I am and what I do. And the mindset really came from that, because I discovered as a behaviorist, as a behavioral scientist, mindset is key to everyone, no matter what age, no matter what profession, retired, entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter what you are doing. It's how you are thinking about what you are doing that shapes us. And that's really important. And I suppose I didn't really set out deliberately to start working on mindset. I was working on it, and then I had to find kind of a terminology and name which could be usable, just for the general public. You can't go in using deep scientific, psychological terminology for someone. You just have to give them a snapshot really into what you're going to work on. I'm going to see what's set in your mind. Can I go in there, please? Will you open that door for me? So that's how it happened. It evolved, but it evolved because there was a need for it to evolve.
So as you went along and you evolved, so it sounds like it was partly due to the needs of your clients that were giving you that opportunity to level up, but also your curiosity and your needs, the latest learning that you had. And I know you're a nerd, but you're you're very good at taking that deep understanding about how the brain works and how we think and behave, and translating that into very simple systems and tools that people can use, which is I've seen it in practice in our group. It's just really incredible how you have that.
Thank you.
Where does that evolution stop almost? I mean, is it just a continual thing? Is that part of what drives you in business? Or it's kind of like the chicken and the egg situation a little bit, which comes first?
It's a great question. I've never really thought about it stopping, just as I never really thought about it starting. I just find myself somewhere in the being of it, and I even say to my clients when we start working together, how are you being? And they look at me. It's like, how are you being? I'm not interested in what you're doing. I'm wondering how you're being. And that really underframes where I am in my approach to my business and my business model and my what I demand of myself for my clients, but also what I demand of myself. Because even though I coach executives and I coach business people and professionals, I also run a business. And I have to apply similar methodology to myself. So I have my own coaches, and I have my own supervising clinical practitioner, because I'm a therapist as well in another part of my life. So I'm learning from them all of the time. And when they discover things with me or about me, of course, my inner nerd has to know how, where, when, and why. And to me, it's a joy, the possibility of learning. I was one of those really annoying kids who couldn't stop figuring out what, the beetle was doing as he's crawling along there. What direction will he go in? And the why questions. I was just one of those really, really annoying kids who did that. And I think that is innately part of who I am. And I don't see that stopping. On my deathbed, I reckon I'll be in a state of curiosity, wondering, what's coming next. That's who I think I innately am as a person.
Yeah, I think it's important, isn't it, to really understand what it is that gives you joy, makes you tick, keeps you going. Because as a business owner and entrepreneur, you have to be responsible for your own motivation and your own interest, and you don't want things to become stale and boring, because then your work will become stale and boring too. So it's I have to admit, it's something that I'm a lifelong learner too. I'm a little bit addicted to learning new methodologies, angles, and then bringing that in,
exactly,
seeing what can apply to my clients and how I see that fitting within the context of how I help people. And it's really fun.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that, because, I've known that we've always shared that common practice as well. But we don't often get a chance to talk about it relative to ourselves. We're always concerned about our clients. When we talk, it's always about our clients.
Yeah.
And it's very important for us to walk that talk as well, and to remember. And that's about integrity and authenticity. And our clients pick up on that. And I think when we're able to come to them in Blueprint, definitely with such an experience, an exploratory nature, a curiosity, whether it's been a success or a failure of what we've worked on or discovered, we bring the walk to our talk. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that's really important as well. And particularly with women, because I think women especially learn very well from other women's experiences. And that's how we've created these incredible communities, is through that sharing of stories and openness and collaboration as well, and having that courage to not always be perfect, and that's how you build connection, I think, as well. So,
absolutely,
because I see a lot. I was talking about it earlier with another podcast guest about this idea of perfectionism, and it holds so many people back. But it doesn't just hold you back, it creates barriers between you and your clients. And that's, particularly in this post-COVID world, people want connection. They want to know who you are. I mean, they always did, but now even more so than ever, I think.
Absolutely.
And so having that perfectionism isn't good.
Yeah.
But I know it's a huge issue.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for how people can overcome perfectionism?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a big question. I mean, there's a lot in that question. How do you overcome perfectionism? I would go backwards and I would say, what's driving the need in the first place? And that's the step to overcome it. What is driving your need for perfectionism? What does perfectionism mean to you? It would be very important to look at that, to go back to the time where you felt you didn't meet the mark, or you were less than somebody who you saw as perfect. And that is usually where drives for perfectionism come from. It's from you feeling less than relative to somebody else, either because it's been highlighted to you in early child or in childhood years or teenage years by somebody else, or by the actions of somebody else, or if you felt outgrouped into something else, not cool enough or bright enough. And we do that in society. We create groupings of acceptance. Our parents can do it to us. Magazines, social media. Where do I stop? So we create our own sense ideal of what perfectionism is. But not only that, we create hopes and desires and ideals around that. If I were just that perfect, then I could be. But perfection doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So you're actually setting yourself up constantly for failure. And there's a confirmation bias in there as well. So we're sabotaging, So I would say if you feel that you're constantly striving for perfectionism, and I actually worked with somebody on this very, very recently. She has an obsession with these, you know, these home shows where you organize your closets and your cupboards and
Oh
so
yeah.
forth. Marie Kondo Plus, it's not just, does this bring me joy and I throw it out. It's about these see-through Perspex containers for everything. And this is a very busy woman. I mean, she's got a tough job. She's a mother. She's trying to do everything during COVID, and she is obsessed with creating these perfect cupboards that are like closed. There's doors on them. And it's become almost an OCD that, you know, if the children take a packet of something from it, they must remember to move all the other packets forward so there's no gap. And that's when it's going too far.
Mm.
And it usually talks about something else that was missing in your life somewhere, and it's about compensation. So it's a complex topic, and I wouldn't ask anyone to judge it lightly or judge anyone lightly. But if you feel you have that tendency, notice it and then do something about it.
Mm. Great. Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Where does that does need for being perfection come from? And I see a lot of people mixing professionalism and perfectionism and thinking to be professional, it has to be perfect. And I don't believe that's the case at all. To be professional, it has to be clear, but not perfect. And yeah, I see there's such an interesting, complex area. We could do a whole podcast.
Well, I will say, if any of your listeners there are, if that's coming up for them, because I'm aware all of your listeners are business women, entrepreneurs, or working in business. You know, if that is an issue, just remember one simple thing. Perfectionism is an ideal that cannot be reached. It cannot. And if you're trying to reach perfectionism, you're trying to reach something, the very thing that you feel inferior to. So your subconscious will never bring you to the feeling of having achieved anything towards perfection because it has been trained incongruently.
Wow. I'm going to let people rewind that and listen to that a few times, because I think that's really such a powerful lesson. I couldn't say it, I couldn't even summarize it. You said it perfectly. But yeah, really so powerful. So I want to come back a little bit to your nerdiness. So I know that as an entrepreneur, it's really important to have a growth mindset.
Oh yeah.
Is that the same as being curious and a lifelong learner, or is growth mindset something different?
There are two key aspects of having a growth mindset. It's how you apply them. That's important. You can be curious about, you can think you are curious about things, but really you're just making an effort to try and do, learn, be expert in. Now that's not really curiosity. That's about proof of ability. That's about feeling, that's proof mentality. I am good enough because I've done this. Curiosity is internal. Curiosity is when you take a step back and go, ooh. And curiosity is not about any confirmed outcome. It's just, ooh, isn't that interesting? It's just noticing what's coming up. And that to me is more powerful than 5 PhDs or having done XXX number of courses or certificates and whatever. That's not curiosity. That's learning and education.
Yeah.
And I have worked with some of the least emotional intelligent, highly academically intelligent people. We have discussed this. Okay. And the other point, you know, lifelong learning. Well, if you're just going to be curious, you're going to be in lifelong learning anyway. Learning, again, is not about books. But if you want to learn more about particular topics which are deep, yes, you can get that information from a book or a podcast like you're doing right now. or you can listen to an audiobook or just watch a film. It depends what you want to learn and what's your favorite medium of learning. I think the most important aspect of that is learn with the mind of a learner, not the mind of a knower and an expert. That's really important. Just be curious, take the pressure off, and to prove nothing more than, ooh, I learned a little something there. And that's it. To me, that's what, and Carol Dweck, the psychologist who came up with growth mindset, she's often misrepresented as being somebody who's telling you to do more. She's not. She's saying, take a step back and notice what you could be curious about. It just so happens that the top business people read a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, from a scientific viewpoint, well, isn't that interesting? I'm curious what it is about that. But not all of them have to. I mean, some of the top entrepreneurs that we know will speak about their dyslexia.
Yeah.
And reading for them is a challenge, but they will listen to books, or they will take time to read some books, or they will talk to people that are fascinating and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Branson loves going on YouTube, for example, to listen and watch people giving talks. So that's what Carol Dweck is talking about. Growth mindset is having learning and curiosity as an option set into your mind. That's what it is.
So how does that fit in with, because one of the things we talk about quite a lot is this idea of resilience and an ability to handle failure in the and see it as information rather than confirmation that you can't do anything. It's just information that's going to take you to that next level. So is that linked to growth mindset?
Absolutely. I mean, you know my belief. Failure is fabulous information. Okay, something didn't work. Ooh, what could I do next time to bring it to the next level? And that's part of the growth mindset. You see, if you're not growing, you're stagnating. You're staying stuck, and the puddle that stagnates becomes rancid and full of bacteria and stinks, and it cannot quench the thirst of anyone. It will kill flowers and so forth. But allow it to grow and to flow. Then it's something that will meet the thirst of who needs it, and it will feed plants and flowers. That's a simple analogy that I can use. But that ability to be able to take failure as something that's not defined and definitive and fixed and stagnating. It's just a moment to stop and observe, move on from the learning that you've gotten from it. And that's where resilience comes from as well. Once you can learn to have some grit, as Angela Duckworth would call it, just have some grit, even when it's tough, and the disappointment, because failure is abject disappointment, fear, and self-judgment. That's what failure is. And then the external imposed judgment. But if you can just have a bit of grit and get through that feeling, knowing that you can also learn from it, that's where the resilience comes in. And again, you've just trained your subconscious, even when the feeling of the failure comes and it rolls out like the domino. If I can just have a bit of grit, I train my subconscious. It's okay to have those feelings without panicking, because I know what's going to come next. The learning and feeling better. And that's what resilience is. And resilience is not, I feel a failure, stop feeling a failure, feel a success. I mean, you know my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
They're just words.
As you say, if you don't succeed in something, it is a disappointment, and it is like, oh, damn it, I'm gonna have to try again now. But as you say, it's I think it's okay to have those feelings, and not to say like, oh, I'm so stupid, that should have been a success, but to think, oh, that's disappointing. But then to also say, but that's also fascinating. What have I learned from this? What will I do differently next time? What will and often I really feel that our failures help us much more to to become the person we're becoming, to build the business
Absolutely.
that we want to build, then if everything went perfectly right, there's no learning in that.
Oh,
So
no,
you
there will be failure.
yeah, and if it all goes right, and we see this with students that are very bright, they have it really, really easy, and then they get
Oh,
to
yeah.
university and suddenly it's hard, and they think, oh, that's confirmation that they're not good enough, and then
Yeah.
quit. It's, I think there's the danger that if things were too good in your business, too easy,
Mm.
you would kind of fall into that trap. So some failure
Mm.
along the way is normal, and it's proof that you are learning,
Yeah.
growing and trying and pushing the boundaries and experimenting, and that's really exciting. So
Yeah.
I think fear can be, or failure can be seen as a real positive thing if you have the right mindset about it.
It's another learning opportunity to grow from. And one of the things that we do with fear, which is very unhelpful to us, especially as entrepreneurs and as women, we personalize failure. When something doesn't go right, we say, I failed. I was a failure. I made a mess of that. And men are not inclined to do that. And I say that from social scientific research. They're conditioned differently. They are absolutely fabulous at saying, it didn't work well. It was not a success. Or somebody else did it wrong. And we're inclined to personalize our failures. And again, I come back to the subconscious. You teach your subconscious how to think about you. So if you keep reinforcing that belief system into your subconscious, you're working on an identity level. I am a failure. Well, your subconscious is going to be very confused then when you suddenly berate it for not making you feel better. You start saying, well, why can't I manage this? Why can't I just cop on and move on from this? Now you're just, bullying yourself. So I would encourage all of us listening, and I'm no different, to embrace failure as something that is going to happen. If it has happened, beating yourself up about it's not going to change it. And if you personalize your failure, you're actually compounding it. You have not failed. The moment you're able to learn from the failure, you've just turned it into a success, because now you have a point of learning.
Yeah. And I think that your point there brings us nicely onto another one of our hot topics that we talk about a lot, and one of your favorite phrases that I love, and I have to admit I've adopted a lot as well, is this idea of kindfulness.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Well, for years we've had mindfulness as being very, very important, but I noticed in my practice, especially with executive and business people, they think of mindfulness as something that you do, and you sit in lotus and I'm not thinking of anything. And that doesn't work. Mindfulness is something completely different. Mindfulness to me is being kindful to yourself in small little moments that allow you to notice. That's where the mindfulness comes in. We have become so removed from our inner locus of control in our lives. We've become so involved in doing. We set metrics that are so externalized. Our personal KPIs have become externalized. We are no longer congruent with our inner selves, our inner world anymore. So you have to go back to being kind to that person, such as being nice to yourself and saying, that didn't work. What did I learn from it? As opposed to, you idiot. There you go again, failed again. See, that's not kind. Would you say that to a child? Would you say that to your child? Well, you're saying that to yourself. Now, can you imagine if you're also bringing that into your business? If you're transferring that attitude toward your business, and you are your business.
Yeah.
So the identity you're imposing, oh, that's not very kind. We talk an awful lot about, I've spoken to you about this, the burnout, the phenomenon of burnout. People burn out because they're completely overwhelmed and submerged. They cannot take any more. There's no kindness left toward themselves. And you will often see entrepreneurs who spend their whole day doing. There's never enough time in the day to get it all done. And then when you say to them, when you spot the burnout maybe potentially about to happen, what about taking a moment to just rest? Oh, I can't do that. You see, it's really important to do that, because your battery will empty. You're not being self-full. And they think that's selfish to the business, selfish to my clients, selfish to my family, selfish to a partner. So, no, that's selfless. You know, you're giving away everything and you've nothing left inside. The battery's empty. You've got to be full so you can give. And how will you be full? Well, sleep and self-care and kindness to yourself, and have the odd walk in fresh air. You know, it doesn't even have to cost money. You don't even need to leave your chair if you don't want to. You can take a mindful moment to just sit and breathe and luxuriate in a coffee, you know, small little incremental steps that tell your body and your mind, you come first. Just breathe.
Yeah.
How are you doing? And the perspective difference I have seen that giving to people has enhanced them, their capability, and the ability of their business.
Yeah.
It's profound.
And it's amazing how many of these like very successful entrepreneurs like Richard Branson and Tony Robbins, they're all now starting to talk about, and Brendan Burchard especially, he's developed a whole new branch to his business about telling business people the importance of having time out, having reflection time. And I like when Dr. Nick Hall was saying, you know, stress isn't a bad thing. We do our best to work under pressure. It really
Absolutely.
we are, but the problem comes in when there's not enough counter stress.
Absolutely.
And he himself only works, I think it's like 3 or 4 months a year. And all of his colleagues were like, you can't do that. And he said, well, I'm going to. And yet he gets so much more work done than anyone else, because he has the creative capacity and mind space to do it, and the energy. Of course, you only have so much energy.
Absolutely.
So,
you see, we do need a certain amount of stress. That's really important. It's an inbuilt defense mechanism. Our bodies, our mind, our psyche is established to have stress, because otherwise we don't know when the saber-toothed tiger is coming. You know, that's a little bit, you know, of an image that I use, because you need, as a human being in evolutionary psychology, to be able to have stress to tell the body and the mind, run, freeze, fight. The problem is, if you are too much in that, your cortisol levels will overwhelm you. Then your body becomes only used to that state. You need the fourth state that I call flow, and it's even a whole psychology. So fight, freeze, and flow. We need to be able to get into a flow after the stress, to wash out and let it wash away from your body. So important. I've seen a lot of things, especially in the past 6 to 8 months and in the COVID crisis, of saying, you know, if you're too stressed, do this. If you're too stressed, do this. You know, we do need stress. We can't demonize stress. We do need it. It's about calm we need to talk about. Not less stress. We need to talk about more calm. Teach the psyche, the subconscious, what it does want to have, not focus it on what it doesn't want to have. Stress. Remember, it's very powerful. It's not very bright, the subconscious. Okay. Yeah. So that's why, you know, kindfulness toward the self, toward your own inner child first is so important. And you will be so surprised at the amount of C-level executives and top executives who in the beginning, when they start working with me and they hear me using language like inner child and kindful, they say, well, no, come on. I'm running a major business here. And by the end of all of our work, you know, they're talking about playfulness. Because we are human beings. We are not robots.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can forget that, can't we, very easily in today's modern world. As you say, it's all go, 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 and lots of expectations on us, but we need to remember that it's our responsibility to manage those expectations and not to feel we have to jump the whole time. You know, we do have some control over these things. And that's
Absolutely.
totally with us to actively manage that the way that we want and the way that works for us.
Yeah.
And we don't need anyone's permission to do that. We can just decide, okay, this is how I'm going to operate. And it's fine to do that. Particularly if you're an entrepreneur, you have ultimate control.
You do. You are CFO, COO, CEO, chief coffee maker. You set the pace, you set the tone.
Yeah. So coming back to your experience as a coach, because I know there's a lot of coaches that listen to the show, and you've had a lot of experience and lots of different aspects that you've brought into your coaching over the years. Do you is that necessary? Do you need as a coach to have that? I see lots of people chasing, oh, well, I'll just get this next certificate.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just do this other qualification. But is that a necessary part of coaching, do you think?
No, I don't think. I mean, the coaching is in the practice. I do think it's very, very important to know what area of coaching you're going to specialize in, because there's so many coaches nowadays, you know, that they're everywhere. And it's a very powerful profession. I see it, and some of my colleagues don't like this. We went from psychiatry, psychoanalysis, we went philosophy to psychiatry, to psychology. And now I see coaching as the next evolution of that. And coaching brings something to people who are not, you know, predisposition to maybe going to therapy or so forth, or need it. It used to be consultancy, but coaching is so much sexier than that. You know, it's so much more human. What I will say is keep your coaching practice up to date. And you know, it's very important to be trained in the area you're specializing in if it involves anything to do with the mind. Like your business coaching is very, very different. Your training is the corporate experience and background that you have, that vast 20 whatever years of expertise. Mine is in the area of behavior and mindset. Now, that does need constant updating and training. And I work with burnout. So yes, I have to keep up to date on the science and so forth. But there are other coaches in other areas. No, it's about the practice. It is very, very helpful, though, to stay on top of current trends in coaching practice, because we learn so much. It's evolving. And that's so exciting. And I'm actually on a training program at the moment for coaches. It's like I'm redoing my whole training again for the next 6 months, but I'm actually on the training team for it. And I do that every 2 years because I get it into the new practice research, and I get to see how people are coaching and training. Honestly, I've come out of it after a month with new thoughts and new ideas and new perspectives. You see, that's the growth mindset of coaching. Because it is evolving, and so many psychologists are now training as coaches. And there's the postgraduate area that I work in, coaching psychology, is becoming more and more required on MBA programs. I would encourage coaches, if they are thinking or are working in any of that area connected to behavior, mindset, stress management, stay up to date on continued professional development. That's where it's important. But otherwise, just read and chat to your peers and go. There's so many free things as well, webinars, and we've got a wealth of people out there who are willing to support us in our profession.
Great advice. And yeah, I think and it's the same in business, isn't it? That you know your niche, really keep your expertise up to date, because that's also going to keep your confidence up to date as well, when you know that you're giving the best advice to your clients. But you don't need to always get that additional big qualification necessarily, but you keep your own personal expertise up to date. And keep refreshing it and stay excited.
That's it. If you want to go for another bigger qualification, if it's for you and you really feel, I really want to do this, go for it. But if you feel you have to have it to prove something, I would be more inclined to get a coach to help you through that belief system. Because those big qualifications, you know, they will come, but if the belief system hasn't been addressed, you'll then just be looking for the next big thing to prove that you are good enough. So that's a good time to get a good coach who work on that imposter within you, that search for perfection.
Helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, to see, is this really a professional development thing, or is this just I have to prove myself, I'm not worthy yet? And there's two very different pieces of information.
Completely, absolutely. That's why every good coach, every therapist, we have our own coach and we have our own supervising therapist.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's really, really important to realize as a coach as well. It's important that you're looked after. Be kindful to yourself too, so that you have someone to go to and go, oh, I just feel absolutely rubbish, or, you know, I just get stuck at this in my business, or, you know, you treat yourself well.
Yeah.
Walk your talk, you know. We have great professionals, so
I'm always just really, I try not to do regrets, but if I was to regret one thing, it would be not discovering the power of coaching sooner. I think if I discovered that sooner in my journey, I would have had a very different experience. But I'm so grateful that I was at 7 years ago, I started working with my first coach, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I haven't stopped working with a coach ever since. It's so important to have that someone by your side who can push you to be better, who can help you really see the possibilities and what you're missing, and help you just continually to grow and stay in that not just positive, because I think you just being happy clappy all the time isn't really the point, but staying objective and about who you are, and not just I kind of have a cycle of like 2 or 3 weeks where I was like, yeah, everything's great, and then he's like, oh, can I really do this? And you need someone who's going to pull you out with that and say, don't be so ridiculous, come on.
Because that's actually healthy, Melita, to have those doubts. That's very human. Okay, we all need someone to bounce things off. If you don't have that, well, there's a certain maybe arrogance that might come in, but it can also be negligence. You're neglecting to look after yourself, which will impact your business.
Yes.
Isn't that such a pity?
Yeah, absolutely. Lynda, you've been amazing. You shared so much value, and I know this is definitely a podcast I'm going to be listening into again as well. Before we wrap up completely, are there any final pieces of wisdom that you'd really like to share with the women out there, perhaps something from your business experience or a lesson you learned the hard way that you would like to share with anyone?
I think a big thing is that I have learned myself, that I have observed over the years with people. Success is not in the doing. Success is in the being as you are doing. So, so important. It's how you are internally and in your mind that impacts how your business evolves ultimately. You know, we've spoken about the self-care aspects, being self-full, being kindful. You know, that's critical. Wellness costs a lot less than illness. And I say this, and that includes for your business, for your body, you know. And I would encourage everyone, have a coach, a trusted coach in your area. If you're stuck in your business, get a coach to help you get perspective, to hold a space for you. If you're stuck in your mindset or behavioral issues or team issues, get a mindset coach or a behavioral coach. If you're stuck, you know, there's so many experts out there in coaching areas, you know, transformation coaches, communications coaches. Get a good coach. They will pay you back tenfold in the investment.
Yeah.
And that it's also a tax write-off, by the way, in practically every country. So that I'd say that's really important. I've always had my coaches, and they're invaluable to me. They're actually on my emergency contact list, a couple of them, and the kids know that too. But I think have fun. Have fun with yourself and your business, even when it's tough, especially when it's tough. The moment when it stops being fun for a long period, notice that there's a message in there.
Yeah.
We need to be there to live, you know, not live because of our work, but to live and work. And the people that are able to do that, that they're able to take that critical distance, they are the ones that last the distance.
Yeah.
And come out of it at the other end with happiness and friendships and family. And that's so important. We are humans first. What we are being comes first. And what you're doing is a consequence of that decision to be on this earth.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true. When I pivoted from my communication consultancy into business coaching, the moment that made that possible for me was a quote from Richard Branson. And he said,
Oh,
if it's no longer fun, stop doing it. And I was like, this isn't
there
fun.
you go.
And just that realization made it so easy to transition. And at that moment, I got a coach as well to help me.
There
Like,
you
okay,
go.
well, how do I take all of these expertise and package it in a way that's going to make this impact? And working with a coach just made that such a breeze. And it was just so, none of the self-doubt. And it was just like,
Yeah.
had the roadmap, had someone to test things out with and give feedback, and just got moving so quickly.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, those two points are really wrapped up in that little experience right there. So yeah, brilliant advice. Thank you so much, Lynda.
Most welcome. Great questions, by the way.
Good, thank you. So for those people, I'm going to put your contact details and more information about how people can find you in your show notes. But for anyone who's out there listening to this while meditating, how can they find you?
Well, go to my website, currently under construction because the business has just evolved so much the past 4 years. The website needs to take on a whole new identity to cover the volume of different types of programs. But you can go in onto my website and, connect with me there, and we can have an exploratory call, or just, check in and see what I'm up to. Go to my Instagram and see my approach. I have some very, very helpful things on Instagram, which are easy to do by yourself at home. Little mantras, little mindset, little questions. So they're probably the two easiest ways to connect with me.
And I know I've referred some of my clients to your YouTube channel as well. You've got some great videos.
That's right. I keep forgetting that I have that, because my YouTube channel is something I established to have as a resource for my clients. And I keep forgetting that I've done that because I'm concentrating too much on having fun. And
your website is A Kaizen Mind, is that right?
Yes, www.akaizenmind.com.
Perfect. Thank you again, Lynda, so much. And
pleasure.
If it's okay with you, I think I might invite you back to talk more about mindset. We could really talk.
Absolutely.
Great. So thanks again and have a great day.
You too.